So coming out of my short holiday break, I was feeling really creatively stuck and kind of unmotivated. December was supposed to be the month that I worked on my big passion project, but that got delayed. Starting the video this week, I had no idea what to do. The morning of starting, I was tossing and turning, trying to think of what to make. Doing this stuff on YouTube always creates a bit of a challenge when thinking of builds and ideas. Should I do something easy that anyone can do? Something more specific, something that appeals to a longtime crafter? Should it be something informative or something entertaining? Can it be both? Should it be something that uses stuff everyone can get or something more advanced? Trying to balance all of these things can be pretty tough. The consideration that often gets overlooked is, what do I want to make personally, just as a hobbyist? So I started this day saying, screw all those considerations. I'm just gonna pull out a bunch of stuff and see what inspires me to build something just for fun. Who cares if it makes a good video or thumbnail? It should at least make for a good day of building. I dug through various boxes of bits until I found a few things that sparked my interest. It seems like whenever I take this approach, I end up grabbing a skull. But I also found these really nice resin pillars. They were cast by a small company called White Shark Gaming Studios, which seems to no longer have a working website. I have no idea where I got them. They must have been in a loot box or a package from a viewer, but they've been sitting in a box for years, and today I decided to finally set them free. You know, when you're in doubt creatively, just make a cool piece of scatter terrain. Put a bunch of stuff together on a base and you'll end up with a usable piece for all sorts of things. As soon as I saw the skull and the pillars together, it really got me thinking about hell. Specifically, the representation of hell you see in artwork by Bosch, or works like Dante's Inferno, or What Dreams May Come. So at this moment, my creative spark ignited, and I was excited to just build a weird piece of hell with a bunch of cool little details. Once I had my MDF base cut and enough main bits selected, I mixed up some Sculptamold to create a thick ground texture. With this on the base, I could simply embed my larger pieces right into it. The Sculptamold seems to bond really well to different materials, and I've never found this task to require extra adhesive. And I had a blast selecting and placing neat little bits all over the place. Things I thought nicely represented a wasteland battlefield in the deepest, darkest depths of hell. I was right in my element. In order to blend some of the joints of pieces and to hide some of the really bad casting marks on that toy skull, I broke out some texture paste and applied it kind of all over the place. This is a nice way to add some grit, some texture, and to blend various things together in a cohesive way. On the smaller metal bits, that texture paste would be too coarse, so I went with something less drastic and just used the GW Typhus corrosion paint. All in all, a very successful day, and I was officially out of my creative slump. Now, because I wanted to spray prime this thing, I needed to wait for the Sculptamold to fully cure, so I let it sit overnight. You can brush on glue and acrylic paint over top of it while it's still a little bit damp, but spray paint probably not a good idea. So while we wait for that, let's take a look at this week's sponsor. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. It's a great place to explore new skills and find new creative outlets. Skillshare offers membership with meaning. With so much to explore, real projects to try, and the support of fellow creatives, Skillshare gives you the tools to grow your skills. Skillshare empowers you to accomplish real creative growth. With Skillshare, you can find inspiration and new ways to express yourself. Find new ways to bring fun and exciting creative projects to your life. No matter what 2021 has in store for us, we can spend it creating meaningful things. Our time is what we make of it, and Skillshare can help you make the best of that time. With class topics on things like painting, drawing, and even productivity, there's lots on offer for those of us in this hobby. One class that really piqued my interest that I think would be helpful for me personally, as well as anyone making miniatures, is Christina Turner's class, Product Photography Basics for Your Handmade Business. Taking pictures of small items we build can be challenging. I still struggle with it, and the lessons in this class perfectly apply to photographing or builds in this hobby, whether it's for YouTube videos or simply for sharing with people on social media. Classes are curated specifically for learning, meaning there's no ads and they're always launching new premium classes, so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. Skillshare is very affordable. It's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, and the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership so you can explore your creativity. When you join, you can try one of Skillshare Skillshare's new live classes. Experience real-time inspiration as you connect with popular teachers while watching and working along with other members. Skillshare believes community is essential to personal growth, and I agree. Tap into the support from fellow creatives who provide encouragement, communication, and inspiration. I realized the next day that this piece could not be a standalone bit of terrain. It needed friends. I want to build a whole board in this theme now. While I knew I'd end up making this set out of random stuff, the main element to really make all of it work together was going to be those pillars. I just love them, but I only had a couple more. Normally I wouldn't condone recasting someone else's work, but the website they seemed to be from no longer existed, and I really wanted more of them, and I needed them the following week. So I decided to make some molds in order to cast them as needed. One problem is that the silicone I had on hand was purchased over a year ago, and I'd never used it. It was still sealed, but this stuff has a very limited shelf life. I hoped it was still going to be good, but no. The one part was essentially fully cured in the bottle, so this task would have to get aside till a little bit later when I could find some more silicone locally. With that, I moved on to painting. Because of the mix of materials, I blasted everything with flat black spray primer. My Vallejo airbrush primer would also work really well for this and be a lot easier to get into some of the small nooks and crannies, but I don't like wasting it on larger pieces, especially since I now had plans to make a bunch of these later. After the primer, I did a zenithal highlight with a light gray to kind of see how all the details looked once they were all the same. I didn't have a clear plan for painting this. I actually went into it knowing that I'd probably try a bunch of different things and see what worked and what didn't. The goal was to really hit a specific look and feel that had an aesthetic that I was after, and to find a way to refine the process to an efficient and repeatable set of steps going forward when building a full set. I really didn't want the set to have that fire and brimstone look of hell. I wanted it to be more creepy and monotone and kind of wastelandy. I don't know what to call this look that I was after, but I certainly had a clear vision of it in my head. Using some gunmetal metallic, I airbrushed out all of the things that I thought would be metal. Essentially, the goal was to have a mix of metal and stone debris, the remnants of what was once maybe a very regal and opulent city in hell, later destroyed by the ravages of war. I then broke out a bunch of brown-toned inks and got to work seeing which ones I liked best. I wanted the metals to look really rusty and very old and tarnished. And with the metals starting to look more brass-like from the inks, I played around with applying some verdigris effects. Usually I brush this stuff on, but I wanted to try it out through the airbrush to see if it was more efficient. I wouldn't recommend this method. It applies too thin and dry, and personally I like the pooling effects from a brush application much more. As I mentioned though, this was all about experimenting on the first piece. I bounced back and forth applying different inks and washes and even some airbrush dust paint to see how it all reacted. To get a more grungy look, I jumped into hand applying that verdigris again, mixed with some rusty ink. I like the way these blend together in kind of slimy, gross, different shades and colors. It looks like a lot of layers of filth and grime from many, many years. Last was a bit of blackwash on the base. I liked how this thing was looking, but it looked a little bit too monotone for me. I wanted to have a bit more definition and distinction in some of the materials. It was also looking way too glossy and wet, and I wanted more of a dusty, ashen look. So I grabbed some beige craft paint and started dry brushing. This could have ruined the whole piece, and I was prepared to have to start all over again, but I really wanted to see if it would work. And I really liked the way it was looking on those pillars specifically, and on the base ground texture. This was definitely the final touch it needed to create a bit of a distinction between the stone rubble and the metal. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the result, and I'm pumped to continue making a full set of these next week and maybe the week after that. I can probably cut out a bunch of the painting steps to get a similar look by doing less. I'll probably also end up using some weathering powders and maybe some matte varnish in the end to really dull everything down, but I'll wait till all the pieces are together and done for those steps. You know, I woke up with a creative block, feeling uninspired and uncreative. After diving headfirst into making something without any plan, I'm now totally excited and ready to turn this one little piece into a full set, and I couldn't be happier where this no plan build has taken me. I'm really excited to make some even more bigger dramatic pieces in this style. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed this little first part adventure into building this world that I'm gonna call
Torment. Next week, I'm gonna keep making some more pieces. My goal is to make a full setup for wargaming or RPGs. I think the theme could work very well in either game setting. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and let me know in the comment section below. And if you need to pick up any tools or supplies for your own hobby needs, maybe you're just getting started, I have an essential equipment page on blackmagiccraft.ca where I list and explain all of the stuff that I use regularly so you know what you need. Also, shopping through that page financially supports this channel and the production of videos like this. And speaking of support, if you really want to help me keep making these videos, if you really enjoy them, you get a lot of value out of them, the best way you can support the channel is on Patreon. I'd love to have you as the newest member of the Black Magic Craft Fellowship. That's it for this week, guys. I got to get back to work because if I want to build a whole set, I got a lot to do. Cheers.